Alright, we're going to spend the second half of this class talking about midpoint. And we got two midpoint formulas today. One is midpoint on a number line. And midpoint on a number line when we've got something that looks like, thank you, midpoint on a number line, we got, let's say we got point A and we got point B, and we're trying to find the middle or the midpoint of A and B, and A will correspond to a value on the number line and B will correspond to a value on the number line. Alright, and this M, this midpoint, will be equal to your x sub 1 plus your x sub 2 divided by 2. So your M is going to be equal to x sub 1 plus x sub 2 divided by 2. And anytime you add two numbers together and then you divide them by 2, you're finding the average, right? So the midpoint is the average of the coordinates. Alright, so let's look at the midpoint on the coordinate plane. When you're finding the midpoint of a segment on the coordinate plane, it's basically the same formula that we just talked about, except for you have to do it twice because you have to do it for the x value and you have to do it for the y value. So if we've got this segment here on the coordinate plane, and this is segment PQ, and PQ has it's got an x sub 1 and it's got a y sub 1, just like it did when we were doing the distance formula. And point Q has a x sub 2 has an x sub 2 and a y sub 2. And we're trying to find the value of the middle, or the midpoint. This midpoint is going to be at the x value at the midpoint is going to be your x sub 1 plus your x sub 2 divided by 2. And your y value at the midpoint is going to be your y sub 1 plus your y sub 2 divided by 2 as well. So it's going to be the average of the x's and the average of the y's. So if you were asked to find the coordinates of the midpoint, and let's see, where's P? It's at, P is at 2 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2 and 6. And Q is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Q is at 6, 1. Well, the coordinates of M, your M in this case, would be located at, or the coordinates for M would be located at, you're going to take the average of your two x values, which is your 2 plus your 6. So you're going to take 2 plus 6 and you're going to divide it by 2. Then you're going to find the average of your y's. You got a 6 plus a 1, and you're going to divide that by 2. So the coordinates of point M are going to be at 2 plus 6 is 8 divided by 2 is 4. And 6 plus 1 is 7 divided by 2. 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. So your coordinates of the midpoint would be at 4, 3.5. Everybody all right with that? Finding the midpoint on a number line, finding the midpoint on the coordinate plane. Alright, the next thing we need to talk about is using this midpoint formula to find endpoints. So let's write this down, okay? Using the midpoint formula to find endpoints. So we're going to say that our x value at the midpoint, we're going to call that x sub m. Our x value at the midpoint is equal to our x sub 1 plus our x sub 2 divided by 2. We just talked about that. We're writing it a little bit different now because we got to use this formula to find a different piece of information. Our y value at the midpoint, so we're going to call that y sub m, is equal to our y sub 1 plus our y sub 2 divided by 2. Everybody okay with that? That's just the formula written down. We're just rewording it, we're tweaking it a little bit because we need to use it to find a different piece of information. Alright, so what we're going to do now, we're going to find the coordinates of J. if K negative 1, 2 is the midpoint of JL, and L is at 3, negative 5. Find the coordinates of J if K is the midpoint. So you got a segment JL. K is the midpoint. And L is at 3, negative 5. So if you... Boy, I tell you what, this computer... Let's draw... Maybe it'll help if we draw a picture of this first and then we do it. Or... Let's do the math version. Let's do the math version first. Let's say this. We're going to find the coordinates of J. J is an endpoint. K is the midpoint. And L is another endpoint. So let's just do this. Let's say we got this picture. Find the coordinates of J if K, which is at negative 1, 2. So let's say negative 1, 2 is about right here. This is K. And it's at negative 1, 2. And it's the middle. L is at 3, negative 5. So L is at, we're going to go about 3. We're going to go down to negative 5. We're going to make this L. It's at 3, negative 5. This is an end point. Find the coordinates of J. Well, if this L is down here and it's an end point, and K is right here and it's a midpoint, won't J be up here somewhere, higher in quadrant number 2? Y'all with me on that? So we're looking for the coordinates of a point that's up here somewhere. Give me some red. This is where J is. I didn't space out my coordinate plane very well. Come on, red. Y'all got the idea? There we go. There's J. We need the coordinates of J. What we need from J, we need its x sub 1 and its y sub 1. We need its x sub 1 and its y sub 1. These values at K, these are x at the middle and y at the middle. And these coordinates of L are your x sub 2 and your y sub 2. So now we're going to use that formula that you just wrote down. Alright? This endpoint, this x sub 1. We said that x in the middle, we said that negative 1 is equal to our x sub 1 plus our x sub 2, which is 3, divided by 2, right? X at the middle equals x sub 1 plus x sub 2 divided by 2. Y at the middle is equal to y sub 1 plus y sub 2 divided by 2. Do you guys see that? Does it make sense? Is it sinking in, or no? Or you just want me to shut up and keep going? Well, now if you solve for x sub 1 and you solve for y sub 1, it will give you the coordinates of point J. So we're going to do that. We're going to solve for x sub 1 first. We're going to multiply both sides by 2. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2 is equal to our x sub 1 plus 3. And then we're going to subtract 3 from each side.
The home has been lifted for the 6-day count. The home has been lifted.
So negative 5 is equal to our x sub 1. That's your x value at point J. We're going to do the same thing for the y value. We're going to multiply both sides by 2. 2 times 2 is 4. And 4 equals your y sub 1 plus negative 5. And we're going to add 5 to each side. And 9 is equal to our y sub 1. So point J, the other end point of this segment, is going to be located at negative 5, 9. And that's how you use the midpoint formula to find endpoints on the coordinate plane. Anybody have any questions on any of that? Okay, second part of your assignment for today. It's going to be in the workbook. We're still on page 5. It's going to be on page 5, and I want you to do the 13 through 21. Now, the space provided in these workbooks isn't large enough to be doing your work. So you're just using the workbook to get the problem. All right? When you're finding these midpoints and you're finding the distance and you're doing the distance formula, I expect the work that you're doing to look just like mine in the notes. Step by step by step by step. Because if you need help and you're not putting down every step on paper, I can't help you because I don't know what you did. The expectation is that you're going to use the workbook as just a source for the problem or the question. But you're going to be doing all your work in your notes. Very neatly, very organized, showing all the steps just like I do in the notes. If you're finding the distance, or you're finding the midpoint, or you're finding an endpoint, the work that's in your notebook should look just like what's in the notes. Is everybody clear on that? Alright, good. Go ahead and complete those problems. Any problems that you don't get finished in class, that's considered homework. You finish them outside of class. Sometimes you're probably not going to have enough time to finish 13 through 21 before the bell rings. Some of you will, some of you won't. If you don't finish it in class, you finish it outside of class before you get here tomorrow.